In today's crazy world, we're constantly using things we don't need, doing things we don't like, and never really moving forward or getting the results we're hoping for in either ourselves or our animals. Are you ready for a change? Join me, Wendie Patrick, your host on Quantumly Yours, Finessium Health's podcast, and become empowered to take control of you and your animals' health and well-being. We're all quantumly connected, so whether you're round the corner or around the world, it doesn't matter, because we can help each other and all work together on our journeys. So come, join me, and together we'll myth bust, share advice, knowledge, truths, and suggestions to help you awaken, grow, and continue your journey to a healthier, happier life. Hi, folks. Welcome to Finessium's podcast, Quantumly Yours. It's been a little while since I've actually recorded one, but I'm super excited that I am actually doing that with a fabulous guest today. I had the pleasure of meeting this wonderful lady a while ago whenever I was a surprise guest, because I wasn't the one she expected, on her podcast, Balance Boldly. And I'm just going to do a brief intro, and then we will pass you over to this gorgeous, gorgeous being that is beside me today. And if I can get here, I'm just going to tell you all that Naketa Thigpen helps exhausted power couples and married woman entrepreneurs reconnect with their forever love and amplify their intimacy when they find themselves sacrificing their relationships because they're so consumed with the wild success they're experiencing in business. Naketa's become known as the #1 balance and relationship advisor in the world. As an international best-selling author of the book Selfish, keynote speaker, podcast host, and CEO, Naketa's equipped countless high-profile women and a few brave men with tools to recalibrate their power dynamics, redefine their romance, and close the love gap to achieve whole success. So, without further ado, Naketa, welcome to Quantumly Yours. I am so honored to have you and meet you again, because I need you now more than ever.
I was trying really hard not to crack up while you were talking. Wendie, I am absolutely grateful to be here. You are a phenomenal burst of energy. You and I had so much fun on our accidental podcast interview a few months back, and we vowed to stay in each other's lives. So thank you for holding up your end of the bargain.
Oh, and thank you as well for fitting me in. I know our lives have gone a little bit shaken up and stirred, and I'm on a whole different tangent. You're coming back from a whole other tangent and experience as well. So both of us, I think, in various different ways and for very different reasons, we're in a similar boat right now, and not much action happening.
No, as I say to the kids, no more love in this club. For those of you listening, if you're over 18, you understand that the club is below your belly button. We'll just leave that there.
That's right. Yes. I always like the phrase from Blazing Saddles, a very old rubbish movie, but yet still one of those classics where it's like, let's face it, everything beneath the waist is kaput.
Exactly. At least for a time. For
a wee bit. And more because I'm opening my new store this weekend, so the last 3 weeks have been completely crazy, doing midnight shifts and all sorts of crazy stuff like that whenever any of you watching or listening to this will know happened just last Saturday. So that's been my craziness, and God love my partner. He's fantastic and being supportive, stepped up, looked after the animals, made supper, looked after the house, run around in the truck, done errands, and is also going to be helping me out in the store as well and in
See,
production.
that is a good forever lover.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that he's bringing so much of that needed understanding, empathy, and compassion that a lot of couples don't have when they're in the midst of an ebb. You know how things ebb and flow,
Yeah.
right? In business and in life. And you're in a big ebb right now, doing some fantastic things. Like, I'm so excited for this store that's happening. Like, you're having all that, which brings good stress, but it's still stress nonetheless. And I know for me as a female, when I get stressed, I get tense in my body. So you cannot come up to me and, touch me without permission or surprise me with touches, because I'm so tense and wound that I'll almost be startled, right, in response. So my husband knows that if I'm having really, really, really good stress, you still got to come forward and, basically ask consent to lean in for anything, kisses, touches, hugs, all of it. Because if I'm super stressed, I might forget that you was my man and turn around with a knife in my hand because I was so startled from it. So it's good that like I'm telling on myself, right? But it's good that your forever lover is like, I see my Wendie. She needs some more support. She needs less of the physical intimacy and more support with work intimacy and making sure that we communicate well. That is a keeper.
Absolutely. Oh, totally is. And I know at some point he'd be listening to this. So you're out, babe.
He's like, thank you, Naketa. I love you already.
Yeah, right. I know. Well, how can he not? I mean, seriously. So, I mean, I guess what we're sort of hedging around the whole thing of, for those listening, watching, is that we need to have some balance in our lives. I mean, I talk about balance with people all the time and usually try to help fix people who are out of balance, whether that's from hormones, whether that's from nutrition,
right?
Like elements, traditional medicines, immunity,
Come on.
parasites, all of that stuff. But something that I very seldom touch on, unless it's to do with the hormone imbalances, is what happens in the bedroom.
Yes.
Or wherever,
Chandeliers, kitchen counter, living room, whatever is your fancy.
Exactly. We're not judgmental here at all. So, and it is difficult. I mean, I find that, whenever I'm going at such a higher fast momentum, which I haven't been able to do for years because I had the Lyme thing going on, which knocks everything out for that. But I got the all clear this year, and I've been knowing I've been getting the all clear this year, finally got confirmation for that. And there's been no stopping me. I mean, the time that I've been able to spend on tasks now has been like, I couldn't do this even 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
So I'm going fast, I'm going hard. And I know lots of things are being compromised and pushed to the side for that. How do we get that balance? Because this is exactly what you do, Naketa. You talk to people and work with people to reestablish that, correct?
Absolutely. Balance, sex, and relationships, all of those things. And my other favorite B word is boundaries. Like, all of those things together make us enjoy our life, right? Like, versus it just feeling like, oh, I have, a work-life balance because I'm home, early enough for us to at least sit down and have a meal. And some people qualify it as just that. Did I have some time with you for 10 minutes? And the reality is, how you're reacting and managing things in the bedroom absolutely shows up to how you perform in your proverbial boardroom as well. So even though we think that we might be like doing excellent with work and, life just kind of has to take a backseat for a while, it's showing up. You're not performing as optimally as you could be. And let me be very clear that although I can't even talk, although I've been a clinician for, at this point, almost 30 years, and I've been doing this a really, really long time, I am a person who receives her own messages. Like, I went through this too. I'm super ambitious, very focused, and constantly doing things. That was the old Naketa. When I realized that my marriage was getting shaky, not because we had big fights, not because we had a lot of arguments or incidents, because I could see my husband was pulling away. He's already a pretty introverted, creative guy anyway. So he's what you would consider like the weird one. He's creative, he's quiet, and he's introverted. So, we have like the perfect combination of weird. And then you take that and have someone who starts to fold in on himself because his wife is outgoing and doing. You can imagine that we started to feel like roommates after a while, right? Now, on paper, successful. Kids, healthy, successful. Dog at the time, healthy, successful, right? Like outside looking in, people would have no idea of what was going on. But the reality was, there was some suffering. It was quiet, it was slow, but there was suffering because he was doing his own thing, I was doing my own thing. And the only time we really physically came together was for physical intimacy, almost to check it off a box. Like,
right.
You know what I mean?
It's on the list of to-dos.
On the list of to-dos for both of us. And we're very passionate people. So for us to go from that kind of passionate, fiery to like, all right, babe, it's Tuesday. It's 7:00 and the kids are at the grandmom's. So, let's get it in because this might be the last one for, a little while. That changes the fundamental nature of your relationship, not to mention the internal conflict that you have as an ambitious woman who's out there in beast mode, regardless of your industry, the next morning, but you're not feeling completely satisfied. In all the ways that you should be intimately and personally. So I say that to everyone to know that this is not a woman who went to school and read a bunch of books and has a bunch of degrees. I have all those too, but this is also a woman who lived through those experiences and saw that there was another way to be. What started for me personally, as well as for a lot of our clients, is the internal work. I had to do the work internally to look at like, why are you so ultra focused? And this isn't a moment, like you're in a moment right now, Wendie, right? Like you have about a month where you're going to be crazier, maybe 2 months because of opening the stores and all that. But that's not your forever. That wasn't how you were, prior to 4 months ago when all these things kind of ramped up. And it's not how you're going to be after if you're intentional and you're careful, because that's who you are. You've had your body betray you before. You know what it's like to not be optimal. A lot of people don't know it until they're forced into that state. Autoimmune, MS, whatever it is that's coming up, where their body gets forced in the state. And then they're like, oh, I need to pay attention to my family. Oh, I need to slow down because this is what really matters. You already came from that. So you just being in this kind of like time period is absolutely fine, which is why your forever lover gets it. He's, stepping up to the plate and he's helping. This is not going to be, for the next 9 months, right? He's going to be like, all right, woman, I need some cuddling. I need some touching. I need some tongue. And, I need a lot of things to get close. I need to feel like you're in heat for me again. Like that's going to eventually come up, but because you have great balance and relationship advisors in your life, you will never, ever not know what to do next to go forward. But for a lot of the other people that were like me, because I didn't have a me for me back then, I really had to go through the deeper work of looking at all the trauma and all the challenges that were multi-generational, like literally in my community, my internal nucleus community of growing up, to look at those imprints of why I was feeling the need to lean into my success more than leaning into the very people that I was being successful for. So the first part to answer your question is to look at your why. Why is this moment happening for you? Is it just a isolated time capsule that, it just happens to be happening right now and at the end of 2021 or beginning of 2022? Or is this really how you've been the last 10 years?
There's a wee bit of both. To be honest, I mean, I've always been very driven. It's hard to say. without completely exposing everything
No, I got you. Yeah.
to everyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, as well as that, I mean, the bringing up in a small Irish family, to a sense, not necessarily so Irish like me have been she Irish, but still the very um introduction of sexuality
Mm-hmm.
to me was, now if you ever come into this house and tell me you're pregnant, I'll throw you out.
Right.
Right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
things that mothers do to teenage daughters
Right.
can be absolutely horrific.
1,000%. Yep.
Right? So then, sex is a dirty word
Mm-hmm.
and all the rest of it. But you then tend to put it on the back burner and say, well, it's not important.
Right.
But it is. That intimacy with your lover is incredibly important because you get that connection. I mean, it's not just a physical thing, it's
No.
spiritual, it's emotional, it's
Mm-hmm.
mental, and it's also good for you because the
Absolutely.
releasing of endorphins, it helps your body balance in so many different ways.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever you hit those blocks, or if anyone else listening is in the same boat,
Mm-hmm.
what would you tell them to do, Naketa?
Yeah, that's a really strong point because, first of all, you brought up 2 points: that multi-generational relational trauma that we get sometimes from our mothers, our grandmothers, aunties, sisters, whoever our kind of nucleus is that we were growing up.
Mhm.
If your first introduction, which I completely relate to it, right?
Mhm.
Well, and so like this could be a whole trauma episode. I relate to it growing up that way. When you have people that you know, love, and trust introducing you to something as bad, even when you get older and you have experiences that are good, and you feel like, oh, well, my mom was crazy, where, or she just didn't have
Right.
access to a good orgasm. Because that's the reality. A lot of our mothers never experienced it.
Right.
They were never allowed to fully be loved on in their body and to give some direction of what they liked and what they wanted, because their time of growing up was, your duty to have sex was really to procreate and to make
Mhm.
your spouse feel fulfilled. It wasn't about you and your
Right.
feelings, right?
Yep.
So of course they're coming from a different context, but it's pouring into us. So now, even though we're older and we're in stable relationships with people we feel safe with, hopefully we're considering them our forever lovers, we still have that early script tethered right there that you ain't got time for this. It's not worth your time, right? Like, we have
Mhm.
it. And for some people it's conscious, it's a conscious thought. Most of us is unconscious, but it's right there underneath of everything else.
Mm.
So all the other things, as I always say to my sister, all the things get stacked on. Well, work is more important. Oh, well, meeting with my cousin's daughter's boyfriend to help them with their problem, that's more important. Grocery shopping is more important, right? Like, we stack all the other things because that still has an essence of not just not important, but it's not a priority, to your point, which was the second point that you made. And when you have all of that happening and you're close to 40 or over 40, I'm in my mid 40s, my hormones are different. Wendie was alluding to some of the stuff that I had going on. I had major surgery, guys. There is going to be no love in this club for another few weeks or so. And my husband has been trained, and I say that with love, has been trained to not have that expectation of me over the last 27, 28 years of our
Mhm.
relationship. We had a couple of years where I wasn't physically available because of my own trauma work, right? Outside of that, and all that ambition that I was kind of putting above everything, outside of that, it's 3, 4 times a week at times. So that's where he's trained to. And then it came to a complete halt because my body had to go through some stuff and he had to retrain with, I love you, I'm compassionate, but dang, nothing. Like, nothing, like everything broke. Like, everything is broke right now, sir. Everything. And he's really good and really loving and super caring and patient, and he's still a man, and I'm
Mhm.
still a woman who also has physical, emotional, spiritual needs of intimacy whose body wasn't allowing. So I had to deal with that private conflict within myself. Like, don't mess yourself up because you want to go ahead and jump back into something. And the other part of it, to your kind of third part of your question, is what do you do when you have these feelings and these wants, but it's just not a priority because everything else is heavy? I have redefined in my own mind what balance is for me. So I had to look at what does work life and love, which is what I call it, work life and love balance. What does that look like for me? Well, that is my truth, what I really, really want most in this world, over the boundaries that will help me achieve that truth as reality. So, as an example, if I say that my truth is, I want deep, passionate, orgasmic energy, even without him touching me. If that's what I say, that's my truth, and that's the relationship that I want, well, I have to create some boundaries so I can achieve that truth as my reality. Well, I can't say that this is my truth and this is what I want if I'm never coming home. If the only time I'm coming home from work is basically to shower, throw a half a sandwich in my mouth and go to sleep. There's no space for him. There's no space for what I want. Because forget him for a minute. How about what I want, right? Because your orgasms don't just have to come from your lover. I'll just leave that right there. But I didn't even create space for that for myself if I don't have a boundary around my personal habits. I need a boundary around my personal habits that allow me to have energy. So I need a morning routine and a evening routine, what I call the power up and the power down, that will help me have some mental space, because that's important. I also need some energy so I can pour into me first. And I know a lot of you listening are like, oh, well, it's the husband, the kids, the wife, the dog, the cat, the frog, and everything in between. What about you? You have to be intentionally selfish. And I mean this in all the ways you're thinking, to back up and give yourself the space you need so you can do the work, whatever that work is. It might just be you need an hour a week for traditional therapy, an hour every couple of weeks to, I don't know, go wiggle your toes and watch Netflix to just, not have to do things. You might need a couple of hours to meditate, go swim, play tennis, just things that allow your mind to unwind and really process things that you've been suppressing. As ambitious women, we're constantly like, oh, that's painful. Don't have time for that. Push it down. Oh, that person was disrespectful. Push it down. Oh, that person just sexually assaulted me, emotionally, verbally, whatever. Push it down, right? Like, we're constantly pushing things down, and it's going to come out one way or another, typically on the person that's closest to us.
Right.
Which is not just our spouses. It's us. We are the people closest to us that always get left in the dust. We aren't on the top of the list for ourselves or for anything else until you are sitting in the hospital somewhere, so to speak, with an IV in your arm. That's the only time that we'll typically slow down and say, I guess I shouldn't care about the 25 phone calls from people that are calling me, and I should have just not answered the phone and took the nap. Right?
Exactly.
Or I should have, my husband said, or my spouse or whoever, they said that they wanted to just take a day off and do something spontaneous. And I kept saying no. Maybe I should have did it so we could have created an experience or a memory. But if you're not doing that, and raising hand over here, I was that person too, guys. So this isn't judgment, just lessons learned. When you're not doing that, it's really hard for you to truly say that you're doing the work to get what you want, because you aren't. You're doing what you need, but not what you want.
Very, very true. Very true. I mean, that's been important because, and it's almost scary because I've worked out of the house for the past over a decade. So now I have this physical location to go to. Half of my house is empty. And everybody's going to go, you're going to get your house back. I was like, what do you mean back? I've never known it any other way.
Yeah. This is a really tricky for women like us, or just humans, because you could be a man too, but humans like us who work from home. My company will be 11 years old, and I've been full-time right from here.
Yep.
wherever it is that we're living at the time.
Yep.
And my husband works full time from home too.
Oh, wow.
Exactly. So
Wow.
I know. And I get that from people like, oh, well, how's that going? I'm like, it goes just fine. You know why? Because we have boundaries.
Right.
We have boundaries. We don't need to be up under each other. And I don't have to be in the office to have space, which is the other part. Because some of us work harder, the men and the women, we work harder because that's usually the signal that our spouses respect. Like, oh, leave John alone. He's in the office working. Well, John doesn't have to be in the office for 18 hours for him to have some daggone space, right?
Right.
And vice versa for yourself. You don't have to be out of the office, so to speak, or in the office or doing something work related for your forever lover to respect that you just want to be to yourself, not because you're mad, right? Like you don't have to be. And that's the other thing. Oh, well, if I'm mad, because some people will start arguments so they can get space.
Oh, now there's an interesting one. Huh.
They don't know how to ask. They don't think they're worthy. And this comes down to those scripts, those early scripts we were talking about that are seated in the space of trauma that a lot of us don't understand we have, because they think trauma has to be physical or sexual, right? Abuse. And it does not. You can be traumatized literally from anything that shifts your inner paradigm, but especially something that someone told you, who do you think you are? You're just a kid. Shut up. Get over here. Kids are to be seen and not heard, right? Like all the things. Depending on, for some child that hears that, it's absolutely fine. For another child, it shifts their inner paradigm. And it can totally shake you to your core. And those things get imprinted on by other activities, other people we attract, other people taking advantage of us, supervisors, it could be workspace, home space, neighborhood, school, teachers. All of those things make the things hard. So you could turn into someone who just pulls everything in, you suppress all the pain, pull all of the things that you would normally want to share out loud in. And the only way you know how to get people to back up is to explode, right? If I tantrum when I'm 4, you backed up. You backed up. Oh,
that's a learned thing, right?
Yeah, it's learned. And
same as a dog.
Exactly. The dog is training the person,
exactly.
Right?
Yes.
Right. And I know you know this better than most, but people think you're training the dog. The dog is training you, right? It's the same for kids. Not that I want to compare our children to, pets, because I know that can be very sensitive. But for growing, learning, and developing beings, which animals are just as well as children are.
Still cognition.
Right. Yep. Still cognition. And I'm being ginger on purpose. But right, like when those things are happening, it's the same way. If I am a 4-year-old who learns that if I tantrum, kick, and scream, and my mom or dad or caregivers walk away and leave me alone for 10 minutes, that's how I get them to back up and stop making me want to eat the peas or whatever it is that you were trying to do. And those habits go over if they don't learn anything different. They go over until now you're 35, you're 45, you're 55, and your forever lover is like, babe, let's sit down, let's have dinner. Babe, let's do. Babe, let's do. Babe, let's do. If that's all you're hearing, you're like, tantrum, because that means back up. And what are most spouses going to do? Back up. Some of them are going to tangle with you, right? Like they're going to verbally argue with you because they've been taught that too. Well, if someone is tantruming, I'm going to be louder. My tantrum is going to be bigger. So that turns into a whole nother thing. But then there are spouses that do exactly what the person wanted because that was their learned behavior, their social learning. And they're like, she's being herself, or that's her time of the month. All the little things that people say that she's being special, and they'll back up and give you the space. But instead, all you had to do was say, you know what? I need some time. Not I need a minute. Don't lie. You need more than a minute. Stop telling people you need a minute. You need more than a minute. You know what, babe? I need some time. I'll come in the living room, office, wherever. I'll come check on you when I've gotten myself kind of recalibrated. That's my favorite word in the world. I need to get recalibrated.
Nice.
And my husband is like, okay. So we live in a loft apartment. We could not see each other. So we're not talking about no big mansion, right? we could physically not see each other, with the exception of him like passing into the kitchen or me passing to the, the loo, whatever you want to call it. With the exception of those moments, we could not see each other for at least 8 to 12 hours a day.
Wow.
And that's on purpose. And not just because someone is working. It's, you have your space. He wants to be in his ESPN and CNN and MSNBC and all the ends. And I'm like, let me read my book. Let me listen to my audio. Let me talk to my sister, right? I don't need you an earshot of all the things. So when we come together, we actually have something to talk about, because we weren't just up each other's behind.
Right.
And I say that with love too.
Yeah, right. That's very good. No, but that's so true, because some of the things that I'm finding out with a lot of my clients, because a lot this year have turned into two-legged clients, because I've been doing so much work with the four-leggeds, then their humans are coming along and going, well, what can you do for me? And I'm like, oh, all right then. And the biggest thing is and I don't say this with malice in any respect, but I make a lot of people cry.
Yeah.
But it's because I'm seeing that they give,
Yeah.
and they're in the same position as what you've been talking about.
Yeah.
And they've never stopped to give them.
Exactly.
And I'm like, give yourself the permission to allow yourself to heal.
Yes. Yes.
Right?
1,000% yes.
Yeah. And the biggest thing is like, especially because a lot of people that I deal with, including myself, are empathic, and yourself included. Totally.
Yeah, definitely.
So we pick up an awful lot of stuff from all the people and the beings that we're involved with on a daily basis, and we carry some of that emotion with us.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll tap into different animals. Some animals will tap into me when it's not their appointment time. But if there's a message or something coming through, I can pick that up.
Yeah.
And I'm having to teach myself how I can go, no, here's the boundary. You wait until I know I can hear you knocking.
Yeah.
When I have time, I will now open the door and go, yes, can I help you? Whereas not even 6 months ago, maybe even the last time we spoke, I was all, okay, I have to listen to this one. I have to listen to this one. I have to tap in and ask this one. I have to find out what's happening with them. And I didn't take a minute and go, hang on. We need a soak for half an hour in the bathtub.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
Right?
Oh my goodness. I want to stand up and yell around the room. You just literally spoke my definition of selfish. So, because I know a lot of people hear it and they're like, oh, because of the programming we have when we're kids, right? Selfish is bad. Selfish is all the things. And it can be if you use it that way.
Yep.
My redefined version of selfish is a personal, intimate gift to create your joy.
Absolutely.
It's your time for you, and a lot of people don't see it because they're holding on to, without getting into the semantics of it, but the antiquated definitions, which are all formed from the patriarchy of religion. And we're talking 1600s when that word was first literally developed and put into the lexicon, specifically by a Protestant bishop who told women it was selfish of them to not be available to their husbands whenever and however often. Yes. Right. And we penalize each other as women and our sons and our daughters and everything under the sun. Oh, you're being selfish. Well, yes, actually I am. And I'm going to continue to do it because I have agency to say no. It's literally my favorite word in the world. No. Naketa, are you available? No, I am not. Period. No explanation. Right. And just being really mindful to sharpen that muscle. It's hard, but if you're intentionally selfish, and I say that on purpose because you want to be intentional about why you're being selfish, which in the new definition is why it gives you space to create your joy. You're not just being selfish for selfish sake. You're not saying no to helping someone who's not as resourceful as you, that you could help, that might be houseless or any of the things. Of course, you're going to lean in and help, but maybe you say no to going to your girlfriend's third divorce party jamboree that's going to be 6 hours long and it's an 8-hour drive when you haven't really slept in 2 weeks, right? That's
Right.
a perfect no to say, girl, I love you. I'm so glad that you freed yourself from whatever that toxic relationship was. I'm not even asking for all my previous wedding presents back. And I will take you to lunch in a couple of months when I have time, right? There's ways for you to do no but not explain yourself. And that's something that I hope everyone listening really takes away is stop explaining to yourself, to your lover, and anyone else that is, literally connected to you, work, personal, whatever. Stop explaining and look for your ands. Like live in the space of and so you can live fully. What does that look like for you? You know what? I love this girlfriend. No judgment for her, 3, 4, 5 divorces or whatever is happening. No judgment. Just there is a judgment about my time though. Am I going to be available for this, 5th, 6th, 7th big celebration that's so crucial to you, but literally makes my life harder for the next couple of weeks because I'm trying to figure out how to do it? Or am I going to say, no, girl, love you, and let's go to lunch in a couple of months? And be honest with yourself. Look at your calendar. Let me know how it's December. Let me know how, February 20th looks like for you on your schedule. Oh, girl, I don't schedule that far out because, we get pushback because they have not been trained to our new ways yet. Oh, I don't look at my schedule. Who pushes things out that far? People who are creating their best life.
Right.
My truth.
Amen.
Right?
Yes.
This is who does it. I don't have to be a superstar or a mega millionaire to push something out for multiple weeks. I just have to value my worth and my time. And when you do that, you now have more space in your proverbial vessel, which is you, to fill up with more energy with those boundaries around your personal habits and your expectations and just all the things that you need boundaries for. So when your lover comes a tapping on the shoulder, you don't grab the knife, right? You can say, oh, hey, honey, right? Or better yet, you can do some initiating of your own because you actually are filled up with energy versus being sucked dry from everyone else's expectation.
Yeah, I think just to add to that, just a couple of words popped into my head when you were talking about that, about being selfish and everything else. Like, you don't have to be an excuse.
Yes.
It's always, what's the reason? Oh, there has to be a reason. There has to be an excuse. It's like, no, excuses are nonsense. They're empty space fillers. Yet we have to be more, give ourselves the permission to go no.
Exactly.
Without being branded as a bad person. And you know what? If those people are branding you as a bad person because you said no, find a different tribe.
Absolutely. You have to ask yourself, why would someone who says that they love you and that they care about you, and I'm talking about your platonic relationships, right? Your sisters, your cousins, your friends, why, and colleagues that you value as well, why would those people say that they love you and care for you and all those things and actually penalize you for a no that they have? Well, let's re-examine those relationships. Who are those people got into? I do something with our clients where we look at the building of our life. There's the parking lot, there's the building, there's the internal room inside the building or the house, and then there's the table, the table where your closest confidants sit at the table with you. Some of those people that know love and like you and say all those things but can't handle the no, many of them got access not only to your parking lot but inside your building way before they had earned the right. So they feel like they have the privileges as the people at the table with you inside that inner room.
Oh, they're entitled to it.
They feel completely entitled. So that's some of the, for lack of a better phrase, the tantruming that we get from some of these people. And we're like, oh, wow. Oh, there'll be my favorite is when they're sarcastic, like, oh, Miss Busy, she always too busy. The little comments that people say to provoke you and poke you. I used to respond because the fighter in me wanted
Right.
to tussle with them. And then I realized that I was still giving energy. So now when people say, oh, because Miss Busy, she's always busy, you got to get on Naketa's calendar at least 6 months in advance. I say, yeah. So do you want to look at June? Right? It's 6 months out. So I don't, you're right. Like if you have a narrative about me and my boundaries that are helping me be a healthy, well-balanced human that now can have space to repair and recover whatever I need to repair and recover with myself, with my lover, with my kids. If you're judging me from that because you're mad that I can't make room for brunch on your timetable, that gives me perfect reason to re-examine, not to explain, not to fuss and fight or tantrum with that person, but let me re-examine. What's happening here? Are they just having a visceral reaction to the no? Because maybe I've always been the yes person. Maybe I've always overgiven, so I've trained them to expect it. So I have to be a little bit fair. Let me give a little bit of room for them to get used to it. But this is the third, fourth, fifth time, and you're still reacting this way.
You haven't caught up yet.
Maybe I should have left you in the parking lot.
Right.
Maybe the problem is you never should have gotten access to my neighborhood to even know where the parking lot was, but I was in a different space in my life without boundaries and let you come in and made you feel entitled to sit at the table with me.
That very, very true. Yeah, we've all had lots and lots of those, I think, haven't we?
Definitely. That's a whole nother podcast.
Those time to call the tow truck and get those people out the parking lot. They've been hanging around for too long.
Yeah. And it's tough, Wendie, right? Like, having any kind of crucial conversation with your lover, let alone a friend, sister, cousin, your mother, whoever, it's really difficult. Even if you don't run from conflict, who wants to sign up for it, right? Like no one's like, oh, you know what? I feel like fussing somebody out today. Like no one's necessarily, unless you got some other issues, that's my clinical hat ones, maybe some other issues. None of us that are well-balanced and healthy or trying to be are signing up for that. So I get the resistance to wanting to set the new boundaries so that you have the space to have this intentional selfish behavior time. Like I do understand the resistance, but just like in order for you to become an engineer, you had to get certain certifications. Like there's no other way. There's a lot of self-taught industries. Engineering ain't one of them, right? Like there's some things that you have to follow at least the highlighted bullet points of the process in order to get to the other side. So you can achieve what you want. This is one of those places. If you don't have boundaries for yourself, if you don't feel worthy of the space and the energy and the time to do your own work, then it will be really difficult to get to the other side and now have a relationship that is healthy. Forget the success on paper that other people see, because none of that matters. What other people think, one day they love you, one day they hate you. None of that matters anyway. But do you feel comfortable when you pull up in your driveway, so to speak? Do you feel good about going into the house? Do you feel welcomed and loved? Or do you feel like you're going into a roommate situation? Do you feel like you're going in like, oh, he's in there? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what's happening for you? So or vice versa, he's always happy and chipper and you feel like the Debbie Downer, bringing in whatever that energy is. The only way for you to get to the other side of that is to be intentionally selfish enough to do the work on yourself so you can eventually be selfless in a way that you don't resent.
Amazing.
Sometimes.
So
true. It depends on the day. Depends on the day.
Well, we got you on a good one then. You're very, very true. So many great points. So many fantastic points. And just, when you look at it, it's common sense. But again, we haven't taken the time for ourselves to even dissect it, to break it down, to have a look at it, to study it, to go to chapter 3 and do the quiz at the end of it.
Exactly.
Right. Just like you say, to get to that, to become a light therapist, I did this year. I had to go through the stages. I had to go through the coursework. I had to go through the practicum until I learned the certain sequence to do things to get to that final point.
Exactly. Exactly.
And
And
we
some of
just
those,
think that with us, it's all inherently
mhm,
inbred or taught as we're younger. It's like, no, 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 no. None of us was given a guidebook. None of us read all the memos.
mhm,
Some of us are still
mhm.
waiting on the memos and the guidebook.
Which
Um,
isn't coming. Mhm,
no, never is.
mhm.
And certainly it is to that point where we can continue to keep making the same bad mistakes
Yeah.
until we
Definition.
stop and take the time to
Mhm.
reevaluate why we keep doing this. Is it a generational curse we have to break? Is it
Yes.
something that we're just self-sacrificing because we're not worthy? We don't think we deserve anything till we get rid of that hat,
Yes.
that we take off that other nasty coat or that,
Yeah.
peel off those blankets and those layers and then
Mhm.
find out what actually makes you tick.
Yeah. You you made me think about your light therapy process and all the certifications you have before, during, and probably after that.
Yeah.
When you're in a traditional process of being educated, all of us have had this experience, whether you just did undergraduate or high school or whatever, and you're like, oh, why am I taking this stupid class? Like,
Mm.
what I have to do this part for? This is so silly. This is child's play. So, not talking about the more challenging layers of it, but the easier ones. Many people will stop at that process because they feel like it's too easy. And so they give up. They'll be like,
Mm.
oh, this is dumb. Like, why am I paying money for this? Right? Like, why am I paying money to do this work? Like, this is so silly. I had this exact same experience with a power couple that I worked with about a year ago. I love to send, depending on what we're doing, because everything is bespoke, it's all custom. But this particular couple, I sent them a really large gift of toys. Not the kind of toys that you guys are thinking about. Get your head out of the bedroom, which is, the best place, but get your head out of there. These were like pickup stick games and adult coloring books and um, what do you call it? The little springy jack thing. I don't know why I can't think of what it's called. The
Oh,
slinky, the
Slinky. Yeah.
slinky, like
Mm.
slinky and bubbles and all kinds of like silly little, back when you were under 10 games. And the reason that I sent it to this particular couple is because both of them were so super formal and so, successful and firm. And they were amazing, but they needed to loosen up so we could get them to that inner child, which was more vulnerable and more curious and more adventurous. So that was part of the work. Now they could have looked at what we were doing, because I think I sent it to them maybe in the first 60 days of our work together. They could have looked at it very similar to how you might have looked at certain parts of your light therapy journey. Like, what? I already know this part of quantum physics, right? Like, why do I have to do this? And I paid all this money for these certifications. They could have said, why am I paying her lots of money to do all of this? She just gave us a box of 10-year-old stuff, right? And of course, once we got the work, they had to be open, willing, and ready to do the work, which is essential for everyone. You had to be open, willing, and ready to go through the whole process of school and not give up on yourself, because it's not about giving up on the
Mhm.
program. For the couple, it's not about giving up on me. You don't give up on yourself. Even the easiest, simplest looking things have a point and a purpose. And my point and purpose for them is, for their particular situation, was I knew that I was dealing with people who were such doers and always going and always looking for the next problem to solve, that I had to slow them down in a way that would make sense for them, because you don't want to, take someone from 0 to 60 because they'll get traumatized in the process, right? I had to slow them down enough and give them something tangible and physical that they could do together and integrate it into their work, which they are super, super grateful for, and graduated from our program successfully. You graduated from your program successfully, where you could have gave up, week one, like, oh, I already know this stuff. And
Mhm.
I do feel like the most dangerous sentence in the world is I already know. It just blocks us from so much. And I'm sure you see it with your
Yes.
clients all the time.
Yes. Yes. I like to beat them up though, because then they go, oh, I know. And I go, well, if you know why you're doing it. Yeah. But
Amen.
yes, we try to live and learn.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's a phrase we should probably put a little bit more weight into,
Yeah.
in a sense. But Naketa, how do people get in touch with you?
The easiest thing for you to do is to go to our website at thigpro.com, THIGPRO.com. And there's a little calendar there. You can book an appointment, and either myself, if you're really, really lucky, or one of our assistants will get in touch with you and we can go through the process.
Fantastic. And what kind of couples or clients do you like the best or want to see?
Oh, the ones that I love to play with the most, because I'm all about playing. I love playing with couples who are not knocking on the door of divorce. If you are 2 seconds from saying it's over, we're about to draw up papers, you can contact us, but we're just going to refer you to our network, right? That is a part of my old experience hat, but that's not my favorite place to play. I love to play with couples that are believers of preventative medicine, if you will. And I know you can relate to that too. Like, I want to catch it before it becomes something. That doesn't mean that we won't discover that there were some pains that they were ignoring because they're just, so used to going. It doesn't mean that things won't come up in the process. But when you come, I want you to be open, willing, and ready to amplify the best parts of you while we simultaneously heal those multi-generational and relational intimacy wounds that have been blocking you from being able to create that very truth that you said that you wanted in the first place.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for being my guest today.
This was so awesome. Thank you for having me. I truly mean it.
Very, very welcome. Very welcome. And folks, thank you for listening or watching. We ask you as always to like, share, subscribe, tell your friends, go check out our website, finessiumhealth.com, and go and check out Naketa's as well. And until next time, I will say, as always, stay possum. Bye for now.
All information, products, and topics discussed in the show are simply the host and guest's personal opinions and are for informational purposes only. None claim to offer a diagnosis, treatment, or cure. All listeners and viewers are encouraged to do their own research and consult with their own healthcare providers before changing or adapting any new protocols. Finessium Holistic Health, nor any of its entities, assume any responsibility or liability for any consequence relating directly or indirectly from the information contained within the podcast.